Hey, Jimmy, are you tired of bullies pushing you around?
Boy, am I!
What if you could get rid of him forever?
Boy, thanks, mister!
Careful there.
In my last video, I took a deep dive into Fallout 3's second DLC, the Pitt. I gave it big ups for offering players more of what made the base game great. It featured a grotesque, richly detailed world whose future is uncertain and in the hands of the lone wanderer, who must decide their fate while weighing the cost of their actions. My biggest fault with it being that it was too short and didn't give me enough time to fully appreciate what it brought to the table before it was over. Today we're discussing the next expansion following the Pitt, known as Broken Steel. Will it further build on the Pitt's accomplishments, or will it take things in a new direction? Is it the best DLC from Fallout 3? We'll find out as we explore Broken Steel. Broken Steel allows a lone wanderer to pick up exactly where they left off at the end of Fallout 3's main quest. In the base game, firing up the water purifier at the Jefferson Memorial would be where the road ends for your character. Whether you sent someone in,
I've saved your sorry ass enough. This one's all you.
Or took matters into your own hands, the resulting explosion would end the game and offer a slideshow that details your travels and lasting impact on the world. Players were unhappy with this, and like a ghost attending to their unfinished business, would often haunt the waste to tie up their loose ends, before allowing themselves to succumb to their final rest. So with their third DLC outing for Fallout 3, Bethesda Game Studios removed the hard stop at the end of the main quest and extended the story. In addition to that, the level cap was increased from 20 to 30, with new perks to be acquired. Players already at the previous level limit of 20 likely found out they were like a walking Armageddon in the capital wasteland, overpowered and unstoppable. So many new, more dangerous enemy variants were also included to help even the playing field at higher levels. Super mutants are now joined by overlords, ghouls welcome the Reaver into their ranks, and even rat scorpions can enjoy the company of their new albino comrades. The main quest of the base game centers around the lone wanderer's father, James, and his efforts to allow the waters of life to flow free and clean for any and all. James was forced to sacrifice his own life to keep the project alive, so it's up to their child, the player, to continue his work. The Enclave commandeers a water purifier and it must be taken back. We have the option of giving in to the wishes of Enclave President John Henry Eden, who wants to impregnate the purifier with the forced evolutionary virus. Doing so will purify not only the water, but also the wasteland of anyone or anything affected by radiation. It's a monstrous act that will cause mass extinction across the capital wasteland, because there are few things that haven't been touched by Adam's glow. Whether or not the lone wanderer poisons the water, starting the purifier will end the game, and every consequence after that is purely abstract. We're told what happens, not shown. Broken Steel changes that, and allows us to see firsthand the fruits of our father's labor. The immediate aftermath of the purifier restoration has the water, now known as Aqua Pura, bottled up and hauled to every thirsty mouth across the wasteland, assuming that mouth is connected to someone that the Brotherhood of Steel deems worthy. Raiders, ghouls, and super mutants need not apply. Speaking of the Brotherhood, just because the water has pulled the old Revelation 21:6 doesn't mean their work is done. The Enclave is still out there and needs one final blow to extinguish them from the world entirely. Liberty Prime has been doing most of the heavy lifting for the Brotherhood, but still, the cleanup needs the helping hands of the lone wanderer. Let's dive right in and see where Broken Steel takes us. Unlike the other add-ons brought to Fallout 3, the only way to access Broken Steel is to finish the main storyline from the base game. So that's where we begin. Loading in, I stand before the Lion's Pride, the Brotherhood of Steel's premier group of ass-kickers. They patiently wait for me to tell them that I'm ready to march to the Jefferson Memorial. When I do, Sarah Lyons addresses her unit and discusses the plan. I couldn't be bothered to listen as I stared in awe at Daddy Prime. He's so big, you guys. Due to the events of the main quest up to this point, I am in the market for a new dad, and I think I found him. I want to ride on his shoulders and play catch with him. I want him to take me camping and teach me the wisdom I need to become the man that would make him proud. He loves his country, but I know he loves me even more. Sarah wraps up her speech and we are released into the fight. Daddy Prime is lifted into battle. They bonked him on the crane lift out of the Citadel, but that's okay. He's strong and could definitely beat up your dad. He takes us for a little walk over to Project Purity. This quest serves as the epic climax for the game. The Enclave is heaving artillery that rains down all around us. Enemy resistance is met at every step, but none are a match for Daddy Prime, whose laser beams devastate all who are caught in their path. I get a bit jealous as he plays catch with the Enclave soldiers. His nuclear footballs explode with fatherly love as he shouts anti-communist propaganda. The haze of war blurs my vision as I struggle to keep up with the massive steps of Daddy Prime. Or maybe it's all the concussions from shit constantly blowing up. Who knows? We approach the bridge leading up to the Jefferson Memorial. There's an electric fence surrounding the facility. Still, just one affectionate hug from Daddy Prime is enough to render it to its knees. We rush into the building through a door that's far too small for our new dad to fit inside. So from here, we're on our own. Enclave soldiers fill its halls, but are just mere speed bumps on the road to destiny. Colonel Autumn is waiting for us in the rotunda. He is set on settling this with violence, and we indulge him.
There's nothing to stop me from killing you this time. Let's end this.
No more than a few plasma blasts later, he was felled, and his fancy trench coat and laser pistol are now ours. This is where the base game ends, so there wasn't really a point in picking up his unique gear, but thanks to Broken Steel, we can rest assured that Colonel Autumn's cool shit has a new chapter. Knowing that the story continues beyond this scene, it takes the impact away from the decision to start the purifier. Sarah and I are warned that the purifier must be activated now, but the chamber is filled with a lethal amount of radiation, so whoever goes in won't come out. The Lone Wanderer is presented with a chance to follow in their father's footsteps. James, I mean, not our new, much bigger dad. James gave his life to keep his dream alive, and now we can do the same. Broken Steel takes the consequence out of this decision because regardless of who flips the switch, we will both be knocked unconscious and taken back to the Citadel, where the DLC will begin. The standard slideshow will still play out, but leaves out many of the slides that reference events that happen well beyond Broken Steel. 2 weeks later, we wake up with a leathery old man in robes standing over us. It's not nearly as creepy as it sounds. Elder Lyons greets us back into the world by honking about how brave we were back there.
Fuck that. Do your own dirty work.
Our father's work has finally borne fruit, and the Brotherhood struggles to find a way to repay us. Despite having just woken up from 2 weeks of unconscious recovery, he strongly suggests that I should assist him right away in their mission to finish off the remaining Enclave forces.
The only remaining question is whether we can count on you to help us.
No rest for the wicked, I guess. He tells me his daughter, Sarah, is still unresponsive. My next step is to meet with Scribe Rothschild, who will get me up to speed on the tasks ahead. I've been awake for like 5 minutes, and he's already pushing me out of the room to go shoot more bad guys. I chug a bunch of Aquapura before following his orders. Rothschild explains that the Enclave has suffered devastating losses at Raven Rock and the Purifier. The Brotherhood thought this would send the Enclave into disarray, as Daddy Prime and the rest of these armored bad boys crushed any semblance of leadership they had left. This has yet to be the case. The Enclave has somehow maintained remote communications amid the chaos. Now it's up to Rick Sanchez to find out where those communications are coming from so we can drive the dagger into their hearts, ending this once and for all. The Brotherhood has isolated the signals to an old military installation in Rockland, just outside DC. Paladin Tristan has set up a forward base near there, and we must set out to join him. The Rockland car tunnel is tucked far away in the southwest part of the map, and the nearest location I had discovered was Tenpenny Tower, so I fast traveled there and hoofed it the rest of the way. This was the perfect chance to test out Colonel Autumn's unique laser pistol, which couldn't be done before this DLC, and it's no wonder this dude was an easy out. His pistol was mediocre at best. Colonel Autumn drops a different version of his pistol in the base game. The Broken Steel version is semi-automatic and has stats that reflect the slower rate of fire. It was great for frying ghouls, but if my pants shittingly close encounter with the Deathclaw is any indicator, I knew I would need something with a bit more oomph if I had any shot at driving out the Enclave for good. Broken Steel has me covered with more new firepower than any previous add-on, but that would come later. I would have to settle for this dinky little laser pistol for now. This DLC features many of the gameplay decisions I criticize Operation Anchorage for making. It puts much more emphasis on combat than I believe Fallout should. Large parts of the Broken Steel questline play like a series of Enclave shooting galleries loosely connected by long treks across the Capital Wasteland. Fortunately for this expansion, plenty of exploration and storytelling is on display for anyone who finds the gunplay of Fallout 3 subpar and unsatisfying, but that would come later too. Paladin Tristan was waiting on us at Rockland Car Tunnel.
Well, look who's back amongst the living.
And with our arrival, he was ready to head out and find the Enclave communication site. Daddy Prime came to help because he's a good dad. He escorted us to the satellite facility and punched a hole in its wall because doors are for suckers who can't make their own. The dude just tanks a splattering of plasma fire while hucking a nuclear football at the wall before delivering an atomic fist. Enclave soldiers poured out of the hole he made, and he turned them into ash with his laser gaze. This DLC fucking rules so far. I was about to enter the building, but Daddy Prime detected an imminent orbital strike and urged us to escape. When the smoke cleared, all that could be seen was a smoldering hunk of charred metal and electronics annex where Daddy Prime once stood, his body desperately clawing at the ground, crawling towards his head that rolled away, still chanting his signature anti-communist slogans. If I had a nickel for every one of my dads that the Enclave has killed, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. The Vengeance Tour starts now. May the deluge of Enclave blood bring lessons that their empire crumbles further for every dad they take away from me. The Brotherhood of Steel Soldiers, in the immediate wake of this crushing loss to their biggest, most daddiest force, seemed pretty unaffected by the whole ordeal.
Everything's above board. Above board.
There was still a mission to do. We swept the building, cleared the enemy's presence, and retrieved the data. It was encrypted, so we would need to bring it back to the Citadel before we could know what it said. Once there, I went straight to Scribe Rothschild, so he could get to work. He seemed to be more interested in the destruction of Daddy Prime,
And it removes the one significant military advantage we had over the Enclave.
than in telling me what a good job I did doing the thing he asked. If I'm in the market for another dad, this dude is off the table. A real father would have patted me on the back. I went to Elder Lines to get my next orders. He confided in me his feelings that this operation was costly and made him question his judgment in continuing it.
I must admit, I now wonder whether moving ahead with this operation was an error in judgment.
I told him that good leaders don't question shit. Introspection is for losers who don't have a giant daddy robot. Oh wait. He didn't like that and asked me to see Paladin Tristan for my next orders.
Please do not presume to tell me my place or how I should act.
Paladin Tristan was unhappy when I asked for payment, as the honor of fighting for the good guys should be enough.
Paid? No.
I played it off as a joke, but he was not amused because he has the sense of humor of an IKEA coffee table. He talks about some experimental tech hidden deep within the town of Old Oni. It's a Tesla coil and can help us level the playing field with Daddy Prime down for the time being. Fallout 3 players know that Old Oni is overflowing with Deathclaws, the most dangerous creatures in the wasteland. They are faster than you, stronger than you, and capable of turning you into a puddle of meat in less time than it takes to realize they're doing it. Somehow, the Enclave has developed a way to control them using special helmets that override their brainwaves. One of the Brotherhood scribes has countered this with a scrambler that can supersede the Enclave signal and replace it with our own. That scrambler will make any Deathclaw wearing that funny little helmet fight for me instead. They'll follow me until they leave the range of the original transmitter, at which time their brain will explode. It's fucking sick. There is not a single Enclave soldier whose pants remain unsoiled in the presence of one of these fuckers running at them. It's a shame that the rest of the Deathclaws are still just as hostile towards us. We must traverse the sewers beneath Old Oni to access the Powerworks building that houses the Tesla coil, and you had better believe those sewers are filled with even more Deathclaws. I was stuck here for way longer than I cared to admit, just getting absolutely demolished by these claw-murdering motherfuckers. Few things are more terrifying than meandering through a dark, dank tube with these unholy beasts lurking around every corner. I eventually was forced to use my enormous stockpile of various mines to defend myself. Do you want to see what 5 bottle cap mines can do to an apex predator? How about 11 frag mines? And I bet you never knew what horror can be inflicted by 5 frag mines and 6 plasma mines. In these sewers, I was putting the dye in explosive diarrhea. Suck it, Deathclaws, you iguana fucks. The plasma rifle handled whatever my mines couldn't. It did its best work when the Deathclaws weren't already sprinting towards me, and I had time to pump hot energized goo into their scaly asses. I eventually stumbled across some ghouls hiding out in the Olney sewers. They were once part of a much larger group before it was cut down by the Deathclaws. They decided to set up shop here because they thought nobody was in Old Olney and it would be safe. They got half of that right. No one lives here, but for good reason. As I pushed further into the tunnels, I found the scattered corpses of the ghouls who failed to escape that good reason. The Deathclaws. They may have fared better if they had a cartoonish amount of landmines at their disposal. I gave a proper burial to the fallen ghoulies by hucking them off the platform. All this nonsense at Old Oni and the Deathclaws drives the point home that Bethesda means for this DLC to be endgame content designed to push seasoned wanderers to their limits. The 2 preceding expansions, Operation Anchorage and the Pitt, were an effortless breeze compared to this. Every enemy in Broken Steel is beefed up and out for blood. It is a welcome change to the usual affair of steamrolling whatever gets in my way. Fallout 3's combat remains clunky and awkward, especially compared to other shooters around this time. Still, the added difficulty forces you to be more mindful about where you are and what you're doing. That mindfulness extends beyond the combat. It forces you to take in your surroundings more closely. Throughout Broken Steel, I was constantly on the lookout for enemies who could blast me on a dime, while at the same time, thoroughly scanning the environment for items essential to my survival. This meant I was more able to find the small details that Bethesda's artists snuck into the environments. If I wasn't desperately combing every nook and cranny, I would have missed such a amazing things as this gnome guarding a toy room, this motorcycle stunt gone horribly wrong, and this teddy bear who apparently got stuffed with the heart of a grizzled police detective. That's 3 fingers of whiskey pass being done with this shit, and that's 3 fingers Florida style, for anyone wondering. Bethesda's artists clearly had fun building out this expansion's new areas, and it shows. The war against the Deathclaws continues as I trudge ever onward through the underground passages of Old Oni. This eventually gave way to a destroyed building that held some Enclave soldiers. To this point, the combat has felt kinda one note, point and shoot while the enemies point and shoot back. Having a Deathclaw sidekick and my makeshift WMDs were nice wrinkles, but I want more. The rubble of this collapsed building provides just enough space to sneak around if you're competent, which I am not. They spotted me right away and the green goo party carried on. The Enclave's new Hellfire troopers are a crispy pain in the ass. They wield long-range flamethrowers that lob balls of fire towards you. On contact, they erupt in a thundering blaze, making it impossible to see anything beyond the fire, not to mention the fire. It's hot, it hurts. Fuck these dudes. Coming up on the laboratory containing the Tesla coil, its stands are like an electric ornament belching high voltage hell into the air. As established, I'm an idiot. I was hypnotized by the call of the coil and embraced it as my new dad. It delivered a lethal jolt into my weak, mortal body. Round 2 with my new Spark Daddy had me turning off the power before picking him up. I returned it to the Brotherhood at the Citadel and told him I was ready for my next assignment. I watched a couple of initiates throw hands for my amusement and tried to taunt another into shooting me. These initiates are training to be ready for whatever this harsh world throws at them. Why shouldn't that include a weird asshole messing with them? Paladin Tristan says they were able to track down where the Enclave's new base of operations is located, Adams Air Force Base. Only accessible via the presidential metro, so that's where we're headed next. I always enjoyed running around in the spiderweb of DC's metro tunnels. I have no way of knowing for sure, but they feel like a product of limitations. Washington, DC's downtown section is broken up into chunks connected by this metro system, rather than being an entirely seamless experience. Having nothing to divide the different urban areas was too much to ask for Gamebryo. A compromise had to be made, thus we have this metro system, and it's brilliant. It provides such a stark contrast to the vast expanse of the wasteland. They are claustrophobic, with the only thing more pervasive than the creeping darkness being the enemies waiting around every corner. I certainly wouldn't want a game that takes place only in these tunnels, as they are obviously repetitive and linear, but having the full spectrum of locations to explore is appreciated. I encountered my first super mutant overlord as I transitioned from one metro to another. The results were unexpected. Be free, my sweet summer super mutant. May you slip the surly bonds of earth to touch the face of Todd. The presidential metro was a pleasant surprise. On paper, it's more of the same, a bunch of tubes meant to be traversed in one direction, but it's what lines those tubes that made it great. It's populated by Americana art meant to celebrate the triumphs and proud history of the US of A. Statues depict former presidents, flanked by flags of the nation they helped to shape. Immortalized in stone, they are blissfully unaware that their beloved land was toppled by nuclear fire, and not by accident, but because it ran the course that they set. The juxtaposition of the smiling, carefree hubris of the world before the Great War, with the ashes that came after, makes Fallout's style so unique. The presidential metro puts that on full display. I ran into Margot, an automated computer system in charge of the defense system, along with the trains, robots, and other maintenance personnel of the presidential metro. They have no idea that the world blew itself up 200 years ago, and has been chugging along with its duties the whole time. They tell me about a security breach deeper in the metro, which turned out to be some ghouls. I convinced Margot that I was on her side, and to have the automated turrets and bots let me pass unabated. This led me to my first feral ghoul reaver, whom the metro security was absolutely incapable of stopping. I couldn't tell if it was a glitch or the way they're supposed to be, but the fucker was going nuts the whole time. Their upper body was slapping around violently as they bolted at me, radiation coming off them like smoke. It didn't matter what I threw at them either. They shrugged off plasma rounds as if they were paintballs. I finally took it down when I crippled its legs, slowing it down just enough that I could backpedal faster than it could limp towards me. Broken steel is no joke. The presidential metro is littered with the skeletons of those trapped within it. Blood is stained on the walls behind the slumped bodies of former policemen. Their handguns lay beside them. I found the train car to take me to Adams Air Force Base. I thought I would need to get the fuse necessary to activate the panel that powers the train, but it let me hop aboard anyway. As it turns out, if the security breach is dealt with, the maintenance robots will resume their normal function and replace the fuse for you. One of my favorite pieces of trivia about Broken Steel is that the cutscene during which the player travels through the subway on the train does not not actually feature a working vehicle. The game equips your character with a glove that resembles the inside of a train, with the player character running along the track at a very high speed, simulating moving through the subway on a train. It's hilarious. Back outside and arriving at Adams Air Force Base, I retrieved the resupply crate airdropped by the Brotherhood. The care package included my orders and the brand new Tesla cannon. This weapon uses electron charge packs as ammunition to send a searing beam of energy surging at a target and dealing damage over time. It's interesting the approach that Bethesda has taken to the weapons added with this DLC, as both the heavy incinerator, the flame ball launcher used by Hellfire troopers, and the Tesla cannon are potent weapons that use ammunition typically associated with the high rate of fire, meaning that they are usually found in large amounts, but use very little of that ammunition. For instance, the electron charge pack used by the Tesla cannon was only used for the Gatling laser before Broken Steel. The Gatling laser can eat through hundreds per minute, doing middling damage per shot, relying on volume to be effective. Meanwhile, the Tesla cannon uses a single round to do over 100 damage. The situation is similar with flamer fuel when comparing the heavy incinerator to the flamer of the base game. My orders are to go through Adams Air Force Base and locate the old air traffic control tower that will give me remote access to lower a ramp leading into the Enclave's mobile base crawler. Enemy resistance is heavy. Hordes of Enclave soldiers, turrets, and vertibirds stand between me and their precious headquarters. My new Tesla cannon will get plenty of play on that trek. It can delete anything instantly, with only a short reload breaking up the action. This is where the expansion started to lose me though. The all-out war and carnage made for a great spectacle, but it also felt the furthest that has ever been from the experience I expect from Fallout. Player agency is non-existent. My only choice is to keep moving forward and destroy everything with my giant fuck-off laser gun. Adams Air Force Base is a sprawling complex offering no sense of exploration. It's empty, hollow, and uninteresting. It's a monotone bore fest with Enclave forces grazing a concrete prairie. I'll admit there is a catharsis to mindlessly shredding enemies, but it wears away quickly, especially when the Enclave soldiers do not fucking miss. I spent more time in my Pip-Boy slamming stim packs into every part of my body than I did actually fighting, and they must be breeding like fucking rabbits in that crawler, because they endlessly pour out of every crevice, and my Tesla cannon just can't keep up. Switches are placed throughout my route to the air traffic control tower, which sends artillery hurtling down nearby. This was the Enclave's last resort, should their other defensive measures fail, and it was fun to spam. Otherwise, getting to the tower was just more highlight tape for my COD montage. I opened the ramp to the mobile base crawler, and after turning Fallout 3 into a tactical cover shooter, methodically maneuvering across the battlefield, I went inside. All that was left was gaining control of the orbital strike satellite and asking it nicely to rain apocalyptic hellfire onto the Enclave's last hope. This meant carving my way through the crawler and reaching the top. It's real fucking convenient that the Enclave just happened to have this behemoth to retreat to after all their leaders were killed and former headquarters Raven Rock was destroyed. The mobile base crawler was designed to be the punchline to the hours-long setup of Broken Steel. The Enclave sends in their elite unit of badasses, Sigma Squad, just as you enter. The Sigma male bro team didn't realize they were stepping into the kitchen, where I was cooking a 5-course meal of get good scrubs. I raged like wildfire down their halls, cleansing them in the purifying flame of the heavy incinerator. I opened up their armory and found it stocked with an alien blaster of all things. The Enclave may have had close contact with extraterrestrial beings that we don't know about, or maybe they themselves are from another world, assuming the human form. Who knows? The game doesn't bother to explain any of it. Besides, I'm too busy on the roof, lashing these jerks into pieces with my Tesla cannon. At this point, I was just trying to bring this whole thing to an end. The constant successive shooting galleries are becoming tiresome. I want to return to the cozy capital wasteland with my choices, exploration, and ability to solve my problems without violence. The Enclave isn't even fun to fight. They are highly trained military dudes wrapped in power armor. They are faceless, bullet-sponge drones that drain your health in seconds. The game goes to great lengths to make them out to be this robotic incarnate of evil. They don't even have a leader. There's no face or singular point against which to focus your anger. Presidaddy John Henry Eden, Colonel Autumn, and any meaningful story content were taken down ages ago. Broken Steel exists only to artificially extend the main story with high-level busywork and a parade of shooting galleries. It's an epilogue disguised as an excuse to give players a reason to keep playing the game after the main quest is wrapped up. Sure, there is a ton of new gear to collect and tanked up asshole enemies to use it against, and it's more Fallout 3, but the parts that make it special are far in the past. Broken Steel's main questline has no tough choices to consider or chew on, no main villain whose ideology you oppose or support on moral grounds. You are told which ones are the good guys and which ones are the bad guys, and there's nothing here to challenge that, to make you think about who your allegiance is sworn to. So that's where we end up on the roof of the mobile base crawler, heading towards the satellite control tower. We need to call down the rods from God, an orbital strike, the same ones that ended Daddy Prime's reign. The console that commands the satellite in orbit tells us the payload is ready to fire. We just need to confirm its target. We can do as we're told and destroy the crawler, or send the Apocalypse to the Citadel. There are options for Rivet City, Megaton, and so on, but those can't be selected as they're not within the orbit path or some such nonsense. Conveniently, the two most important structures in this war between the Brotherhood and the Enclave are the only ones in that line of fire. Choosing the Citadel will cause a unique cutscene to play out, where when you board the vertibird back to home base, the pilot will be unable to contact them and concede that it's some issue with their communications.
What the hell's wrong with the equipment on this flying junk pile? Let me try this. Citadel Control, come in. This is Prime 1. Citadel Control, where the heck are you?
Once they drop us off at the Citadel, it's lying in ruin, with smoke bellowing from a fresh crater. They immediately blame you for it and attack. Should you survive, any contact with the Brotherhood from then on will be hostile. This feels like an afterthought. This option gives you like 10 lines of unique dialogue, and flips the Brotherhood's faction switch from friendly to fuck you. That's it. The Initiate that suspects you as the one responsible has voice lines that sound like they had to record it off of someone's iPhone 3G.
It was you. You did this. You goddamn murderer. You've killed them all. Kill this traitor. Kill him.
The only real option is to blast the base crawler. Choosing this option will have the vertibird land on a nearby building so we can watch the fireworks. It's a great display, far better than the half-baked turd presented with the other option. Following that, we are flown back to the Citadel, where Elder Lyons and Scribe Rothschild give us the old attaboy and then carry on as if nothing happened. We can help out with some unmarked quests. Rothschild will ask us to bring him sensor modules and cameras to help his effort to rebuild Daddy Prime. Paladin Tristan will task us with bringing him super mutant blood to aid the research. Every mutie from here on out will draw blood packs. Oh, also, Sarah Lyons woke up at some point, and she says hi.
Surprised to see me?
Broken Steel includes some additional side quests revolving around the distribution of Aqua Pura, such as escorting a caravan that has been getting harassed by an organized raider syndicate, or calling out a grifter on his bullshit. In either case, it illustrates the Brotherhood's control over the purified water, that they decide who should have access to it, forcing others to resort to violence or fall victim to a ghoul wearing a hairpiece just to get a sip of clean drinking water. Somehow it's considered a good thing to act as a Brotherhood's enforcer, squishing anyone trying to circumvent their tyrannical control. Learn to love the chains that oppress you, or find a way to be the one placing them on others, I guess. And that's Broken Steel. Bethesda made the right choice in allowing players a way to continue their character's journey beyond the main quest, but the new content added feels like an early concept of what would become the Creation Club in later Bethesda releases. Excuses for cool gear thinly veiled by slapped together errand quests. This just had a bigger budget. There were some standout moments and features. The Presidential Metro was full of environmental storytelling and charm that isn't present anywhere else in the DLC. Increasing the level cap from 20 to 30 was a welcome inclusion. Releasing a bunch of high-powered enemy variants to give your new gear and level cap a chance to stretch their legs was also a brilliant move. Still, the lack of meaningful story development, moral dilemmas to dwell on, or interesting new locations to explore means the focus is solely on combat, which has never been the strong suit of Fallout 3. Plus, the fall of Daddy Prime is something I cannot forgive them for. I hope you find the people, things, and activities around you that make you happy, healthy, and kind. Your darkest moments don't define you, and there's always a tomorrow. I'll catch you next time, and have a nice day.